Hello, everybody. My name is Dude BDR, and welcome to another TekTox. Today, we're going to discuss home theater systems, setting them up, the ins and outs, what kind of room you might want for it, what's more ideal, uh, what setup would work for your room or for just how your acoustics are. Today, of course, we have with us our special guest, Ravens. His name is Zach. We're going to call him Ravens or just Raven, one of the two. I don't know. And then we have Redneck Alcatraz right down here. This guy. And y'all already know him. So, to get us started, first of all, Raven, tell us about yourself, what you do, and everything, and generally how long it takes for you to do a job.
So I live in the St. Louis area in Missouri. My company that I do work with is based out of Cape Girardeau, which is down in the South Boot Heel. We do
I'm from that
any.
area initially, Jonesboro, Arkansas.
There you go. Okay, you're right around there. So we do anything from home security systems, which can include the actual burglary alarm, motion, door sensors, contacts, that kind of thing. And we also do the video security as well. In addition to that, we have the audiovisual side, as you guys had asked me to come in and talk with. Can range anything from projectors to in-wall speakers to landscape speakers to um, whole home audio in integration with that stuff. And there's multiple different ways. Um, some of the projects can be an average of a day for an install, or one of the longer ones that I've currently been working on. We've been doing it for about a year, and that's on the residential side. We provide residential services as well as commercial services.
So for
So it
stuff
just
like a
depends.
apartment complex or like a, I don't know, say like a subdivision.
Yeah. So residential, obviously being a homeowner, commercial could be a corporation, it could be an apartment
Okay.
complex with a,
Okay.
if they're wanting, say you're walking through a breezeway or a foyer, we can provide audio for that. That audio can also integrate and be used on a outdoor patio as well, so where the whole system works at the same time. That all begins in the development process with one of our sales managers. They sit down with the client, kind of feel out their aspects of what they're looking for, and then based on their concepts, they kind of pitch a few different ideas. Once they get an idea of their overall scope of the design, we have a design engineer who goes in and tries to figure out the best components, whether it be the speaker, amplification, receiver, tuner, or different components from products like Sonos.
So this would be
Um,
the guy who like looks at the layout of the house and is like, all right, so, you know, what kind of flooring and furniture you got in here? What's your acoustics going to be like here? You know, what's your roof height? All this kind of thing, and you'll determine what kind of speakers, the impedance, and all this kind of thing to be able to really make everything pop.
Correct. Yeah. It all comes together kind of in that engineering phase, and that engineering phase, like you had said, brings together what kind of speaker, what size speaker, what quality of speaker. One of the products that we use is Sonance, and that brand. They have, just off the top of my head, I know there's at least three different variations of the same style speaker, and it's based on the quality. So the material the cone is made of, the housing that it's developed in, and then actually the durability of the system as well. So you have a 5464R, which is a 8-inch speaker that goes in the ceiling, but then you also have an extreme version, which is designed to go outside, so it's more weather elemental protected. So you've kind of got the same thing in different variations. Same thing with the rectangular in-wall speakers that we use, LCRs, left, center, and right channel. We normally use those in the front of the rooms. They all provide a high quality audio, but it also comes back to the components that you're using, which again, the engineer looks at what kind of a receiver or what kind of an amplification system that we're using to provide the correct impedance, as you had said, the correct wattage based on the system or the volts, um, depending on how the system is set up. With exterior audio speakers, they can be daisy chained and put into a 70-volt system, and then you're running an 8 ohm sub to get you some nice deep bass and a well-rounded audio sound. Versus an indoor home theater, you could just run uh, a 5.1 surround sound or get up into something like Dolby Atmos.
Now, you had mentioned LCR, left, center, right, um, and that got me thinking. Sometimes I can go into my headphone settings right now with the Logitech G Hub, and I can test the surround sound on it. And it'll start off with the center channel, which of course is the front, right here ahead of me. And then it'll say the left channel and the right channel. So I have that set up. It's you got, right front or left front, center, right front. And then it says the left surround channel. Is that going to be straight off to the side, or is that the ones?
It depends on your overall setup. You can be running a 5.1, a 5.2, 7.1, 7.2, 8.1, 8.2, 9.1, 9.2. Um, the difference is the amount of speakers, the amount of true surround you're providing. So, as you had said, you've got your left, right, and center channel. Excuse me, left, center, and right channel. Those are going to be your first three. And then you could have two that are directly to your left and to your right, your height on either side of you. Could have two behind you, left and right, to provide the surround back. So typically, surround is going to be left and right. Surround back will actually be behind you. And then when we get into something like Dolby Atmos, there's actually two pair, two in front of you and two behind you in the ceiling to provide a full surround simulation. And then the point number, so whether it's point one or point two, comes into the subwoofers. So if you're a point one, you're running one sub. Point two, you're running two different subs. You could be doing line level in, or you could be doing speaker level in, depending on the way that the product is designed and how it again is how it's being amplified. Um, line level LFE is going to give you a more rich sound. Speaker level in can be a little bit more taxing because of the way that the amplification works.
So it's generally better to run line in if it's less
Yes, so it's
taxing.
going yes, that's going to be kind of your RCA connection versus actually just putting a speaker cable into the back of the subwoofer.
There's going to be the difference from, like, if you got those little crimp things, red and black, you stick the bare end of the speaker wire into it versus having an actual, like, AV looking cable that goes into it.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, your composite or your RCA is going to be the, as you were saying, the pre-made pin versus the bare-ended speaker. Powering up a subwoofer from the wall is going to be better than trying to provide power over the speaker cable. So if you think of your all-in-one systems, you can go to Best Buy, Home Depot, or Home Depot. I guess they could sell them, or Lowe's. Getting into the hardware companies, Walmart, Best Buy, Ultimate Electronics, any of those kinds of places. You buy an all-in-one system. Some of the times that subwoofer can be powered off of the main deck, which is not going to provide the greatest quality. A separate system that is actually being powered from a 120 volt out of the wall is going to provide its own amplification and take that line level in, and it's going to do the amplification right there, unless you have that secondary source of a preamp that's going to filter everything, boost it up, and then send it directly to where you need it to.
And now you've talked about all these speakers and subwoofers and things, and you'd mentioned going to like Best Buy and places, and at these places you'll notice a lot of the times they'll have sound bars. Talk to us a little bit about the sound bars. Like, how do they work? How do they provide a similar experience if you're trying to go with a more immersive sound?
So yeah, excuse me. One of the bigger products that we do use is the Sonos Arc. Sonos Arc is going to be a forward-facing um, soundbar put under the TV on top of your entertainment system, and it will provide a very well-rounded immersive sound. You will get the center channel, you'll get your left and the right, and you'll get some what may feel like surround, which is using phase control. So it's altering the angle of the sound projection and using your room specifically to help kind of wrap you around. So when you pull a TV out of the box, you throw it up on your wall, you set up the programming, it's going to say, is it tabletop or is it wall mounted? Again, that's kind of doing the same thing. It's helping the TV decide, okay, I need to bounce the sound or I'm going to project the sound this way to get a better quality audio. When you look at a TV, your speakers are going to be anywhere between like a half inch to 2 inch size. So they're going to be in the field we call it very tinny. You're going to get a real high pitched sound. The quality of the audio is not going to be crystal clear. When you jump into a soundbar, you're enlarging those speakers. You're bringing it to about a 3-4 inch speaker on average in those different sections. In that section as well, you can possibly have one that's doing highs and mids, and then you have a separate subwoofer. Or in some of those sound bars, they get into the low range as well to provide some more deep bass without having to add a sub. My wife in particular doesn't care for sub. I, on the other hand, I don't like it heavy, but I want enough to feel those low end sounds that are coming out of whatever audio or movie that I'm watching. So in addition, so like I said, the Sonos Arc, we normally will pair it with what's called a Sonos amp, and that allows us to run 2 additional speakers, and we can add those into a rear channel, or we can add an additional amp, and we can get more out of it. The Sonos system is very versatile because they link together. So the amp will pair with the Arc, which will pair with the subwoofer, which allows us to do a 5.1 system with essentially 3 components. The Arc itself, the Sonos sub, and then the Sonos amp, providing those 5.1 different sections. And we can build it up, and we can add in more and create a more immersive sound with that. And it's all app driven, which is one of the other things. So a lot of people go around with their phone. Your remote control's right there. It'll integrate Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Pandora, and then in addition to that, obviously it will pull your TV audio to provide that with whatever source input you're giving. So if it's provided DTS or Dolby, it's going to do what it can to create that same atmosphere with whatever components you're allowing it to use.
So by running it off the app, you don't even have to run the TV. You could just sync it up and run something off of, like if you just want to listen to music, you just hook up your phone through the app. Now you get surround sound for your music.
Yes. So in unless you get into some more intricate things like Tool is very immersive with their audio that they provide. Some of it is actually recorded in Dolby Surround. So if you sit in whether you use headphones or you're in a room with 5.1 audio, you can hear the audio travel from left front to left back to right back, and it will actually surround you based on the way that they do the pro mixing in the studio. Just as you would sitting in a movie theater, you're looking dead at the screen, you hear something off to the left, it travels over your head and off to the back right. You'll get similar audio with some audio mixes, depending on how it's finalized and mastered by the artist and or the producer. If you're familiar with the app TikTok, they tell you to turn your phone sideways with the new iPhones, and you can actually hear a left and a right audio change in some of the sounds. That's a very, very, very basic form of what these newer systems for home audio can do, or have been doing for years. But as we integrate more and we learn more, the different channels allow us to get more immersive within the audio complex.
So it's kind of like sometimes you'll see like a celebrity where in their house they have their phone Bluetooth to something and they're playing music and you can just walk into any room and you hear it playing everywhere.
Correct. And one of the downsides there with Bluetooth, Bluetooth is a very wonderful technology that's very short range though. It's
Yeah,
not a long distance. So I'm not sure. I know you guys said we can talk about video images and whatnot here. So, and I don't know if they'll pull up this way, but if I can get this to work for me. The
Maybe.
Sonos app integration, and go figure, it's going to blur out for me there.
oh, there
Sonos
goes.
app
Oh, for a
integration.
second had
Yep.
it.
Well, it's not loading for me. I don't own any Sonos products myself. I work a lot with them, but they can be a little on the pricier side, which comes
I
with
figured.
quality. Yeah, a good
If you
friend of
want
mine
better
always said,
quality, you're going to pay a little bit extra for it.
yeah, a good friend of mine uses the term "buy once, cry once." So he'll spend the extra money for the quality to know that it's going to last him.
Yeah, a
So
buddy of mine said you either pay on the front end or you pay on the back end. You pay up front or you pay for it later afterwards.
exactly. Yeah, and I've noticed a lot of that with the clientele that we use. If you spend the money up front, it tends to last you a while, and you're not future proofing yourself, but you're giving yourself time down the road to not have to worry about changing things out, and you'll have less integration issues if you
That's a
go
good
with
point.
today's standards. Yeah, if you go with today's standards, if you're looking at something that's a little bit older, you're not going to go wrong. But down the road, I mean, as we're all familiar with computers nowadays, parts will last, but it depends on how long you want to get down. Do you want to get yourself 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road? And that plays into the quality in the price point that you're looking at. If you pay for a $200 graphics card for a computer, you're going to get a little bit down the road. You buy one of the $600 ones, you're going to get further down the road. You're
Right.
not future proofed because obviously technology always changes. And that's the thing with electronics. You look at one thing and within 24 hours, something new is already out there. Is it better? It may be. Is it not? I mean, it varies based on your personal opinion.
Right. And when I
Um,
build a computer for somebody, I will look at whether or not this thing is upgradable. Like,
exactly.
they want to run, say, a Ryzen build. Okay, well, they want to get a bit of an older Ryzen. They want to go with a second gen Ryzen rather than, I guess you could call it a fifth gen. It's technically the fifth
Hmm.
with the 5000 series. And that AM4 socket, AMD doesn't seem to care to move away from it. So for the foreseeable future, at least, Ryzen's are going to be on the AM4 socket. So you get a motherboard that's decent and can take these AM4 CPUs. Now you have an upgradability to it. Again, as you said, it's not completely future proof, but for their purpose, it is slightly future proof because now they can upgrade it as they go along. They get a little bit more money or whatever. They sell their old CPU, get the new CPU, pop it right on in. Might need a BIOS update, but still, you're good to go.
Exactly.
Same for RAM or a graphics card. Most all these graphics cards now run off the exact same interface, so you won't have to worry about do I need to get the PCIe 4 or should I just stick with the PCIe 3? It's fine. PCIe 4 is still relatively new, so not everything is really going to run on it. But yeah, future proofing isn't necessarily a concept that is infallible, but it can work for a while. I prefer to call it upgradable because eventually things are going to change and the way it interacts with different parts is going to change. PCIe is not going to be there forever. It's sometimes somewhere down the road they're going to find something that's better and replace it. RCA connections eventually. I mean, I know there's different types of audio connections now that are better, but as far as for what we're talking about connecting to a subwoofer and all that, eventually they're going to come up with something that's better and more commercially viable or more residentially viable, and they'll start using that as a standard. And things will be less upgradable from the old style to the new style. And then once that's inundated, you know, then you have your upgradability again.
Yeah.
And
And
sometimes those changes are caused by just technology advancements.
Yeah.
We
mhm,
may get better cables
Prime
that
example.
transmits
Type C
better
and Lightning.
sound, better data, and all that over different cables. But to do that, it may turn the RCA connections no longer viable because it doesn't work with the new cable tech.
That's what I
Mhm.
also like about these because they also take a Type C. I could, if I needed to, and my wireless charger stopped working for whatever reason, I just plug this in here, or I can plug this in here, charge both of them off the same thing if I have to.
That's
Exactly.
more a standardized thing, but yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the different companies have their own proprietary things. A lot of stuff nowadays is using micro or mini USB, and then with today's day and age, they're switching over to the Type C stuff. A lot of the products we use that may be integrated. So again, coming back to the Sonos products because they make stuff that is movable. So like um, the Beats Pill, the little movable speaker that they have. Sonos has something very similar to that as well. And it does use it uses a charger like that. So that you've got the roam through Sonos or the move. Um, Small items that are portable, battery packed, USB, micro USB for charging, and even wireless, depending on so they're using the Qi charging, um, providing you that quality. So just like Alexa has their Echoes or their docking stations, you can get the conversation of music out of that as well as using it for just a small source audio, whether you're doing a laptop or a cell phone by the back patio. If you don't have a full setup, giving you the options for small stuff. but also being able to integrate it into the other stuff, like we had said before, the Pandora, Spotify, your TV audio. It just takes a little bit of know-how, and an everyday basic user can use something like this. The other thing with Sonos that is really cool is that the product itself is backed by Grammy award-winning producers. So the product is actually tuned by those guys, who are doing the sound quality from production studios. So they're going out, they're setting these things up, and then there's a system within the app called TruePlay, which allows you to tune your room based off the structure and the acoustics, which it's on a basic form and it's allowing the app to do the algorithms to change things. Whereas in my industry, we have a specific programmer who goes out and sets up a high quality mic and does the room tests itself. They can tweak the speaker for distance, tweak it for the line level out that they're looking for, whether it's pushing more highs or mids, or if it's just specifically designed to be pulling more bass. So there's a little bit more tweaking in a full production standpoint like we do versus a out of the box setup with something like Sonos.
All right, and let's hop over now to if somebody wanted to do a DIY setup. We'll talk about both interior and exterior, and I guess for the sake of it, we'll start with exterior. And you'd mentioned like doing it on a back patio. For example, we our back patio, we covered it and we have walls on it now and stuff, and it's screened in, and every now and then we'll set up our projector back there with a little screen and watch a movie on the back patio. um, let's say that me or my father-in-law wanted to set up a sound system out there. Now only half of it we use for the little movie theater viewing, if you will. The other half of it has like a table and like a almost like a dining spot, but it's still open all the way. We have wooden rafters up top and everything, so like it's not insulated or anything, but it's exterior. It's outside. Um, Walk me through how I would go about if I wanted to do it myself. How would I determine what kind of speakers I should get, where I should set them up, and how I would integrate that into my project?
So the first thing you want to do is obviously look at your space. What area are you trying to utilize? How much do you really want to provide? Are you looking for a very elaborate system, or are you looking for something small scale, just comfy and cozy for you and a few people gathering? Um, in talking about different products, one of the ones that I'm more familiar with and that we use a lot is a company called Sonance. They provide a few different options for outside. Their garden series, which is designed for up to like 3,500 square foot. It's not a excuse me, it's not a huge system, but it's a very good system. You also have their landscape speakers, which are small satellite speakers. Typically comes in like a 4.1 or an 8.1 style system. You scatter these little speakers throughout your landscaping, as they're called landscape speakers, and you run them back to the amplifier. That amplifier then works off of some kind of a tuner that allows them to provide the sound. So again, incorporating in with like a Sonos port. The Sonos port will take multiple different analog and digital inputs and allow you to channel them out into a receiver, which can then pass it to the amplifier, which sends it out to the speakers in the appropriate wattage, voltage, ohmage based on what subwoofer and speaker you're using. Um, with the systems, you can pretty much hide these things anywhere in your yard. So if you have a row of hedges, or say you've got some liriope grass in your uh, mulch beds, they'll kind of blend in. They'll hide, but they still produce great audio. Subwoofers, little bit more obtrusive. A lot of people have seen them in places. They're a large mushroom shape. They come have a dome. They come over and then they port back in and then they go back down. Some people don't realize those can be anywhere from 12 to 18 inches buried into the ground to help them provide that bass. The subwoofer is located at the bottom. It has its own dedicated speaker power line that goes into it that helps drive it. But that's where these particular things, they're not pulling power from 120 volt out of the house. They are pulling power from an amplifier, which is why it's a little bit more integrated in this kind of a system for an outdoor usage. But when you're looking outdoor, as we talk about location, you also want to talk about um, the amount of weather they're going to see. So some people have a uh, three season patio, so that's a little less extreme for the amount of weather that they're going to get. But for you, it sounded like you have a little bit more of a terrace, so something that's a little bit more weather rated. And if you're not looking to do landscape stuff, then Sonance provides a speaker called the Mariner. It is a weather rated, or the extremes that I mentioned earlier. They're designed to take more of those and places like courtyards, patios, and get those excuse me, get those elemental experiences without actually breaking down the cones and the woofers that are designed in there, because the different materials perform well, but they provide that audio quality without breaking down over the year. I've seen a few houses that I've gone to lately. They've taken some on-wall speakers and materials have changed, but the plastics have just been, they're sun bleached, they're cracking and breaking because they've been so exposed, and that just comes down to the difference in technologies and or the quality that somebody used. You can go grab a pair of bookshelf speakers that are meant for inside, and somebody can go slap them up outside. They're not going to last you long. Uh, so it comes back to those materials.
I know some guys improvised some boat speakers and use those for outdoor outside the house because they're designed for water and salt water, so
I've
Hmm.
they didn't have to worry
actually
about rain cooking them or
I
breaking
knew
them.
a guy who did that. My best friend in the world, Mike Baker. He had him and his dad had a boat, and they had upgraded their boat speakers. And he took the old speakers and he put them on his back patio, which wasn't covered, to hook them up to his speakers that he had inside, so he could hear his music outside on the patio as well as inside.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different options. Companies like Klipsch, they'll go in and they'll do the same thing. They have the ability to provide those outdoor experiences. But then when it comes to companies, it's just a matter of personal preference. A lot of people will stand in front of five different types of speakers. They might like one versus another one. Me in particular, I am a Paradigm and or Sonance kind of person. Klipsch to me has a very high end horn, which is not, I mean, great quality audio, don't get me wrong, but it's not my favorite thing. It's more of a concert, in your face live experience. Whereas to me, JBL, Sonance, and Paradigm have a very full, well rounded audio. It's not so high pitched, it's not so low pitched. It's just a very, in my opinion, I'll call it a cozy sound that I like when I'm listening to music or watching a movie kind of a situation.
Right. And I look for that as well. Like, what sounds can I hear that I wouldn't normally whenever I get a set of headphones? Um, like I could watch a show or a movie or something on my computer, and I'll hear all kinds of sounds and you know different this that and another, and it's at a comfortable range. But then if I swap over to my TV, which I've connected a little 2.1 speaker, like a little Logitech speaker thing up to, uh, I don't hear anywhere near as much stuff. Uh, and one, I can attribute that to it not being literally half an inch from my ear hole. And two, it's just not as high quality a speaker. Now, to actually put a point to it, this speaker driver here is only about like that. And then the drivers in my headphone, these are a 44 or 45 millimeter driver.
Yep.
So again, this one's actually bigger than those speakers there, and the quality put into it, I hear more. The music sounds better. Myself, you had talked about preference for sound. I prefer to be able to hear the deeps and the mid. The higher pitch stuff, like you said earlier, with some things that sound tinny. To me, if I get too much high pitched stuff, it just sounds squeaky and squealy, and I don't really care for the the high pitch. I like my mids and I like my low, rumbly kind of thick
Yep.
sounds.
Yep.
That heavy sound.
Yeah, I mean I am a metal guy, so
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
So-
I can't say
getting you some
much.
more bass lines and guitar riffs versus those, those high ends. I completely understand that.
All right, and then splitting from having exterior to something that kind of bridges between exterior and interior. Let's say I wanted something that was somewhat portable. I guess mobile would be better. Like if I wanted to be able to pack up this stuff on my patio and then take it to a small room that's not necessarily meant for my home theater, but I can use it for that if I wanted to. Or if my buddy's having a party over at his house, I could bring over my system for him. We could set it up in his living room real quick. You know, what would I want for that?
Get you a boom box, throw it on your shoulder, and walk around just blasting some beats.
Yeah, I mean myself, I grew up with I mean, yeah, exactly. The iconic early 90s three-piece system. You got that center CD player tape deck with radio, and then you got the two
Mhm.
disconnected speakers that you can move around.
Yep.
You know,
Same.
that's the ideal setup, me growing up in the early 90s. Um, with today, we have again the company I work for. We do rentals, so we have a
Ooh.
projector that we have rental, and then we actually do a PA system. So we have it's an outdoor weather rated screen, so it's made out of like a PVC vinyl, and it snaps into place on a frame that's erected real quickly, and that can be moved around. So that's kind of the one option, and that's not necessarily the ideal for everybody. The
Hmm.
projector that you get can either be an indoor rated or an outdoor rated. And coming back to our conversation from a minute ago with the outdoor stuff, you got to kind of play into the game of, are you putting it in a shaded area or are you putting it in a sunny area? And that plays a difference based on the way the TV is manufactured because of your backlit LED displays. If you're sitting in direct sunlight, the company, one of the companies we use is Seura, Seura, and that they provide a shaded TV or a sunny TV. And the lights on the back of the TV are going to be more crisp and clear on a sunny TV in a sunny spot than if you were to take a shade series TV and put it in a sunny spot. It's going to be still, the colors are going to be there. You're going to be able to see it, but you're not going to get as pronounced image because the glare and the direct sunlight is going to cut out and not allow the TV to do what it's designed to do.
And I'm sure
Comes,
that's where screen texture would have some little bit to do, like whether you want a matte or a gloss screen as well.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So again, yeah, going to Sierra, and I can only speak on behalf of the systems that I've used. A Sierra TV, if we're looking at a 50-inch outdoor TV, the price tag on that starts at about 7 grand. So you're not looking cheap, but you're
Yeah.
getting a TV that can withstand negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So you got your wide ray outside, providing it with 4K ultra high definition, and you're getting your HDR. So you're getting your high dynamic resolution in there. So your blacks are black, your whites are whites, and your colors are vibrant, while your image is crystal clear because you're pulling that 4K. Little disclaimer there: you have to have a source that provides 4K. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah. Well, I thought this was gonna
So
be a 4K. It's still pixelated.
yes, so
Is it
so
a
and
4K show?
well,
No.
and it's not even a
Is it
4K show.
HD? No.
So if I tell you, go buy an Apple TV or a Roku, you got to make sure that you're pulling something that has 1080, 4K, or 8K in today's world. We're branching into that next level of
Yeah.
resolution, and not everything. So 8K, yes, it's out there. PlayStation 5 is able to pull it. I believe Xbox. I'm not an Xbox guy anymore. I used to be, but I believe Xbox can push some stuff in 8K. But you have to have the system that can do it.
Consoles.
But you also have to have a source that can provide it. So you might go get something like
And
use
a
I utilize the
connection that can carry it. For
correct.
anybody
Yep.
listening, you can't go get a DVI cable, and frankly, you're probably not going to get
What?
that
You
good a
can't?
view off of an HDMI cable. You want a DisplayPort cable.
What?
Yep.
Get your DisplayPort cable. Anyway,
Yep. So
rant
so with
over.
cables are a whole nother system. Those are a whole
Yeah.
different beast. I used to be in this situation where it's like, oh, cable doesn't matter. Now that I do this for a living, the quality of the cable does play difference in a lot of different aspects.
Connector
But
material, all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah. So again, with that component resource. If I tell you to go get an Apple TV, I believe it's the sixth generation that's out there now, is the 4K version. They've updated the remote control. The menu is still the exact same. That's one of the perks about Apple is the menu looks the same. It works the same way. The
Everything is
remote has changed.
exactly the same, but it's newer, so it gives about $800 more.
Hmm.
Yes.
And so then yeah, you can produce the 4K system. Your chroma can go to 444 instead of 424, and that plays into the amounts of blacks and whites that are able to be shown within the different color variations. What kind of color variations the TV can actually replicate. So a lot of times when you change the display, it pops up and says, "Hey, can you see this? Okay, or cancel." You hit OK, you're good to go. If you can't see it, it auto reverts in 25 seconds and gives you a different image. You know, and that's one of those things that the systems are doing now to make sure that you can do that because they have the ability to uh, shall we say backwards compatible with older systems, so you're
Good.
getting your higher refresh rates on the newer TVs, your dynamic range, your contrast, all that kind of stuff is advanced to fully utilize. Now the other thing that I like to suggest when I'm talking to people is they're coming out with all these smart TVs. Great option. Personally, I won't use it. The TV is designed to display an image. It's not designed to stream. So in the older days, back in the early 90s, we had the combination TVs with DVD players or combination TVs with VHS.
Say older days, and then talk about the 90s, and then I feel absolutely called out. But no.
You're not alone.
Go
I
ahead.
actually, the monitor I'm using right here, my second monitor is actually an older TV with a built-in DVD player.
There you go. So now
Still
now
works great.
yeah, and it works great. But now if the DVD player goes out, what do you have to do? You're adding an extra component to that system, right? You've already got the
Correct.
DVD player there, so the system's gone out. Now you have to go spend more money on something else, or
Except
you
I'm
were
using it
you
as a computer monitor.
exactly. Yeah, in your
I'm
case,
solved.
it's kind of obsolete in your case, but the streaming devices are created to specifically run streaming programs. You're not straining the TV's ability to provide an image by trying to tell it to do something else. It'd be like me telling you that I'm going to do CAD programming while trying to play a high-end video game with my graphics card. The two are not just, it's not
No.
compatible at the exact same time. You can choose one or the other. With the TVs, they have a game mode. A lot of people don't realize that it turns off the tuner settings on the TV and allows the console to actually do the image quality and preparation and allows the TV just to display the image that it's being told to display. So it cuts out a little bit and provides a better quality image. So, you got your you got your audio component quality questions that you're saying. You've got your video component. You've got your streaming component. You've got your ISP component. So, your ISP, the provider itself, is a basis in what kind of an image you're going to get if you're running low quality signal. You don't have to get into 1 gig service. A lot of people are like, oh, I need a gig. When you truly get into looking at how much you're using up and down, if you're using fiber, you're awesome. 500 is probably going to sustain most people. 200 is going to be a good portion of the majority of people that are out there. If you've got a large family, you've got a lot of devices, or you're doing a lot of streaming, then the higher end. Now when I say streaming, this is consistent streaming. So picture 4 children all with their own tablets, mom and dad, and there's a couple TVs streaming on all these different devices. Then you've got your computers, you've got your
Dude.
cell phones.
I
You've got
was counting the devices around that. 14,
He's
by the
he's
way.
taking too long to try to figure this out. He's got to be one of these consistent streamer dudes that's just like, I've always got shit running,
We got
or someone
14
has something.
devices around the house that are that are all connected to the Wi-Fi at one point or another, or possibly all at once. It's 1 gig, of course, and then I've got my PC, which I hardline to. My router is over here in the corner, and I just gotta.
I can get this
But
to
yeah.
don't know if it's going to do it for me.
Oh, there it went
Oh,
right there.
okay. So right here by my finger,
Yeah.
right now I have 19 wireless devices connected. On the other side of that, that's 3 hardwired devices. 3 hardwired devices, that's my security gateway, my personal computer, and my wife's work computer's VPN. 19 wireless devices. I've got my front doorbell camera. I've got several Echoes in my house. I've got my phone, my wife's phone, my tablet. All of that stuff is consistently connected because you got to think you get your background pushes and pings. So all of that extra stuff and the TV you're using is doing the same stuff. It's trying to pull all that information to the TV while it's still trying to provide an image. So you get multiple things going on in the processing instead of just allowing it to do its thing. When you throw a Roku or an Apple TV on a TV and you're using an HDMI that is designed for it, so you've got copyright protection at HDMI. That's one of the big things of why HDMI is utilized the way that it is. It is copyright protection. You cannot pass something that is not copyright protected through the TV if it's not approved. Uh, on a Roku or an Apple TV, it'll actually throw I believe it's HDCP error. 2.0 is what I've recently experienced. I had a HDMI cable go bad, and it started throwing me these errors. I swapped it out with a new cable that's able to provide 4K television images, and guess what? It's working again. Haven't had any faults. But
Yay!
that's where that cable quality comes into play. You can do gold tips. A lot of them are now, they're silver. Gold provides you a great connection. Silver provides a good long distance run, as far as point A to point B. Now, when I say long distance, we're talking 2, 3 meters. We're not talking 150, feet to 150 meters kind of a thing. Um, and quality does matter. You've got AudioQuest is the product cable we use. Skywalker cables and AudioQuest cables for our short distance connections. We've got the basic cables that are brass ends, aluminum ends, kind of a thing, up to our silver and our gold. The inner cables are silver and the tips that we're doing are gold. And they use those typically because they're non-corrosive. Great connection, non-corrosive. You get into some of the other stuff. Once it's outside of a jacket, it's exposed to the elements. They don't rust, they oxidize. And that's where the problem comes in is once it starts oxidizing, you lose the ability to connect. And I come back to a conversation with like a car battery. A lot of people have experienced the little green and white crusties that form on a battery terminal in a car. It's the same
Rain, rain.
conversation with electrical components with speaker and audio equipment. When you expose it to the elements, moisture, and electrical current, you're going to oxidize. Gold naturally doesn't oxidize. Silver takes longer to oxidize, but they provide a higher electrical rate of current connectivity to provide those signals from point A to point B.
Right? And to push right on into the final little leg here, before we go into
Oh.
Textra and talk more about less formal aspects of this.
Textures where all the shenanigans happens.
Yeah.
Be prepared,
Um,
Raven.
uh, and now we'll move to the interior. Talk about like what kind of room you would want for setting up an in-home theater, what kind of equipment you would want for it, and how you would go about setting it all up.
Well, you've got your high end, you've got your low end, you've got your formal systems, you've got your informal systems. Again, this is going to come back to the amount of time, dedication, and money you want to put into your system itself. Um, General homeowner could be as simple as picking up something like a Yamaha receiver, 5 speakers, and some speaker cable. 18-2 speaker cable from point A to point B, and a RCA subwoofer cable. It's got the pre-made ends on one side and the other, plugs into the back of the subwoofer, plugs into your receiver. You run your speakers out, running off of a TV. New, old, projector, doesn't matter. That's going to be kind of your base end on a very simplistic home theater setup. On the other side of things, as we were talking before, you can get into the Dolby Atmos. So your left, center, and your right channel, surrounds, surround backs, rears, overhead front, overhead rear. That's going to be your full Dolby Atmos setup with 2 subwoofers on that. Your room is going to be dictated based on your space. So if you have a large room you want to fill, say we're talking movie theater size, I have seen houses like this where they have a full dedicated room that is probably 6 of my bedroom size. You're looking at 12 by 12, put that together 6 times, and you're looking at a movie theater. Um, Company I work for, we work in some multi-million-dollar homes, and our clients, some of them want to spend money, whether it's for themselves or for the kids, or they like to entertain. They'll do some bigger setups. In a room like that, typically you're looking at like theater setup. So they have tiered seating. Let's say three sets tall, and you're looking at about 8 seats wide, give or take. 120, 140-inch screen on the wall. Dragonfly is one of those companies that we use as far as the reflectivity and the contrast ratios on the screen. Just like TVs, when you're looking at projectors and the screens that they project on, you have to be able to get a material that is reflective but doesn't cause extra glare. And then you're also looking for something that can build contrast, and that's going to be able to keep and control the black levels in there. And then on your projector itself has to be able to produce an image with high contrast and produce a high quality image. And a lot of people will say, well, I don't like projection. When you look at projection versus LCD or a plasma, which is going back a few more years back, or OLED, organic LED that we're talking about in today's world, you're looking at different types of image projection or image quality. Um, Projection itself, to me, has always kind of had a grainy texture, especially if you get up close to it. If you're looking at it at 140-inch screen and you're standing 10 feet from it, you're going to be able to pick out a lot more detail. If you sit back and you're sitting about 20, 25 feet, think about the movie theater. You see a great quality image. It doesn't really look grainy unless the projector itself is out of focus, but that's where our basic movie theater experience comes from. Once we get into the digital formats and you push it on an LCD or an OLED or plasma, it comes into your pixel ratios. And one of the terms that I have been taught was the screen door effect. If you're
Yeah.
standing in
Yeah.
your house and you look out a screen door, you see the little grids. That's your basis on pixels. The smaller those pixels get, the more and more those screen door effects disappear and the quality of the image is present. You get up close to a computer monitor or an old cathode ray tube. You look at the cathode ray tube, looks like you're looking out a screen door if you're up close to it. You see the black crosses on everything. Inside of those, you have your red, your blue, and your green, and they shift. With a LED TV, you're having, whether you have full array or you have projection, that's your light control. It's either coming around the sides or every individual pixel is kind of lit.
Hmm.
Um, that's going to give you, again, your contrast ratio. That's going to be one of those things you play with your room effect, if you want a really crisp image or if you're okay with something different. OLED, each individual pixel by itself controls its amount of black and white. Whether it's red, blue, or green, they all have their own white and black control. So it's either on or off. And that variation comes from that. That's why those have a lot crisper, cleaner image, and they're brighter in some spots, and you don't get the flashlight or the halo effect. Some of the older TVs or some TVs that are a little bit more basic, when you're looking at a true black screen, they'll have a ring around the side, and that's the LEDs lighting up the screen. On a full array TV, the whole entire thing will be black because all the LEDs are turned off behind those spots. When you get a white spot over here, these lights are on, nothing else is black, but you don't get that bleed over. And then when you're looking at DLP or projection style, you have individual mirrors that are doing the shifting. So you get a little bit more of that variation because of what's going on there. So that's one of those extra things. And they go into play on the different sizes that you can get into. You can get into the large TVs for a cheap price when you look at projection. LCD, LED, when you get into those big TVs, you're looking at a hefty price. Biggest TV I have actually seen, I've seen a 120-inch plasma screen television, which was huge. The thing weighed and took, I believe it was 10 guys to actually mount this on a wall. And it had specific framing that went into the wall to hold this thing up.
I would
Couldn't
think.
even estimate couldn't
Yeah.
even estimate the price that it took, or the amount of cost for the television itself, the amount of supports that were put into this wall. Thing's huge. Thing is great,
Mm.
but it's a little overkill in my personal opinion.
They
It's
probably had
Just
to
just a little
rebuild
bit.
the
Yeah.
wall support
yeah,
alone.
and I mean, if anybody's lifted a plasma television, even a 45
Yes,
inch, 42, 50 inch, you're looking at about 80,
they're
85, 90
hefty.
pounds just for those. Now multiply that into a 120-inch screen, big old sheet of glass on the front of it, versus taking a 12 by 12 projector and being able to set it down and it casts an image.
Hey, you don't
Um,
need a heater for the room.
Exactly. Yeah, it's that light bulb's going to definitely produce you some heat there, and that's another factor with projectors is you got to look at the replacement factor for a bulb, and again that's one of those down the road future proofing things. LCD, LED, it's going to run the life its course, 2 to 8 years depending on the amount of time you run it. At home, you're turning it off. You're going to get the longer side of things. Commercial environment, TV stay on pretty much all the time. You're going to get shorter end of the image quality there. In a home aspect, though, yeah. Again, coming back to your full circle, once you look at the screen you want to put it on, the image that you're producing it, you've got your sources taken care of. Amplification, again, coming back to our engineer situation, there's the tuner, amplification, preamp out, all that stuff is configured into that. Typically, we store it in what's considered the head end or the rack. It's our centralized location for everything from top to bottom. It sits on a shelf. It integrates, looks very similar to a computer server that some people may identify with more. Each component goes out. Big old bundle of cables comes out of that and goes out because a lot of times your network connection is stored in there as well. So with these devices, you're also integrating things like a system called Control 4, Savant, or Crestron, which adds in your automation. So that's a whole different ball game, but it's your remotes that control everything at once, from your lighting to your heating to your sound environment to your curtains can be drawn shut. You can turn on your fans. Um, so
Fancy.
many so many things.
Curtains.
Yeah, that's getting on to the pricier end of things.
That's getting
But
into oh, I'm Jeff Bezos now.
you getting close to that.
Sit down in
Yeah,
your chair like I want my thermostat changed. I need the lights dimmed, turn the fan up a little bit, curtains open tiny bit with the shades just drawn so, and mood set, get me some TV
exactly. And the easiest thing I can compare that to is like Alexa. If you look at Alexa, you can do some of the scene settings. Takes a lot more. Yep. Yes. So you can do a lot of that automation control, and that's on a very basic side thing where Alexa can go in. You can set your scenes, your devices, and all that kind of stuff. Control 4, Savant Crestron has all that integration stuff. And I mean that's a ball game that I'm not even into because that's our programmer side of things. I set the equipment up, but the programming and the integration stuff that's all based on them.
I'm just the
Lutron,
hardware
the lighting.
guy. You talk to
Exactly. Yeah. I
Hey,
do
us
the
software
service and
guys can't
install.
get a lot done. We can program it all day long, but if there's not a hardware guy to put it together, the program's worthless.
Mhm.
That's more me anyway. I'm so much more a hardware guy than software guy.
I've done both. I'm not sure
I'm
which I
kind of
like better.
in the middle.
Yeah.
Things when it comes to like Sonos, I do the Sonos setups, but when it comes to Control 4, Savant, and Crestron, we've got another guy that specializes in stuff. He's licensed, certified by the company, has gone to trainings, whereas me, I see it, I can do a little bit of work with it, but I don't mess with it because it's not my wheelhouse. I like hands-on hard equipment, being able to plug wires, move wires. You put me in ones and zeros, I get lost kind of quick.
Hey Joe, tag, you're it.
Exactly. And again, that comes back to the size system that we're doing, the amount of integration. If we're just doing a home theater, very simple, straightforward kind of a game most of the time. But when we get into some of these larger houses, you've got the whole home audio, you've got the theater audio, you got the pool audio, you got the window shades in every single room, you got your lighting controls. They can be very, very, very elaborate as far as what's going on when, and then being able to integrate that into a phone application. You got so much more on top of that. Um, and then kind of coming back to the home theater stuff, as you're asking about acoustics, you got to play into the fact of what's your room shape, what kind of materials do you have in there? Are you doing hardwood floors? Are you doing carpet? You're doing hardwood, you're going to get more echo and more resonance, so you got to be able to compensate. Um, we
Or
typically
your
use
falls, or your wall sheetrock or wood, or something else.
exactly, and one of those things that we do with a lot of our stuff is we will actually build out textured components, and we'll use 2-inch rock, um, 2-inch rigid foam.
Yep.
So it's insulation that comes in 8 foot by 4 foot sheets. It's 2 inches thick. We put it into a channel, and then we actually fabric wrap it. So we'll take a piece of fabric, and the sheets are designed specifically to take the fabric. You push it into the channel, and it pinches the fabric. It looks like a wall. Um, Redneck, I believe I've actually sent you some photos in the past, and I don't know if the ones I sent
Probably.
you
Like if you
have it.
guys have ever seen like a concert hall or a band hall, you'll
There
see
you go.
like these frames up on the wall, and it looks like it's just a big giant cushion or a piece of cloth or whatever. What that is, it's a dampener. It's to reduce a lot of your echo. What it is it's some kind of foam, whether it be like a chair foam or like he was saying rigid foam, like kind of like the spray foam you use if you want to insulate something, depending on what size you need, how big your room is, how much you're echoing. You take these things and you get them and you frame them in. You get them looking nice with the cloth or whatever you have over them, and you stick them up on the wall in places so that you have less of that echo.
Yep.
You walk into a band hall and the ceiling's 30 foot high, and you got all these bare walls in there. You trying to play a whole bunch of instruments. It's gonna sound awful. You're gonna have the
Hmm.
echo
You're gonna
coming
get
back. People won't be able to tune, stay in time. So you dampen it, as it were, and now you have a much crisper, more precise sound where you're not getting all that bounce back and interference. So
Reverb.
you can,
Hmm.
yeah, you can hear the sound, without being like, wait, did somebody just knock on the door, or was that the thing that happened a second ago?
Yeah,
yeah.
and a lot of the times, if you're looking at somebody, one of the things that I know is out there a lot is watching a voice artist. You'll see them sitting in a sound booth. Same thing. You're trying to eliminate any extraneous sounds from that and hear the audio for the quality of the audio that it is. When you get reverberation and you get acoustical properties come into play, like I said, fabric textures, red, like you said, the wall textures, all that kind of stuff plays into an effect. The more you can reduce that extra vibration, the better audio and more direct audio you're going to receive from the system you're creating.
You don't necessarily want an anechoic chamber either, so
Yeah.
Correct.
there's
Correct. I
a
mean, we
there's a
don't need to
line.
go insane.
I
We,
think
we
the
don't need to drive
most
ourselves crazy from the silence.
I think the most sound absorbing chamber ever built was at a -2, I think is what it read as on a decibel meter.
Oh, it's
Hmm.
ambience. No, there's one in Minnesota.
It
It's like the ambient decibel uh uh rating is like -27 or something.
Yeah, it was in the negatives, and it was like people could literally. I think one guy said he could literally hear like heart movement and
Yeah, you,
blood
you can
movement
you
and
can
like
hear your
blood
blood
flow.
flowing through your
It
body and
was
your
like it
your
was so
organs working.
disorienting that nobody could stay in the room for very long. As
I
for
saw a
pictures, Raven,
video about one
Ra-
guy. He said that a they had some kind of a training session on one of the floors above them for some police officers, and they were using blanks in their guns. And one guy had walked past the room, and he had fired off one of the blanks in the anechoic chamber, and it sounded like a real crisp pop, like a balloon going off or something. Just pop.
yeah, because it just absorbs the sound.
That
Nobody
sound
on
went whoop,
record,
gone.
nobody on record has been able to stay in the world's most quiet anti-echo room for more than an hour. It actually, like Red said, you can hear your almost like you can hear your own muscles moving because it is so quiet, and people actually tend to go crazy because
Yes.
of
Get
the absence
real
absence of
unsettled.
anything.
Well, sensory
Yes,
deprivation
is a form of
has been
torture.
tagged as a torture and inhumane because it can literally drive you insane. Um, Now, as far you mentioned some pictures, Raven, I do
Yeah.
have some you sent me. I don't know which of these we can actually use. The two most recent ones I might be able to share. I know the three that came before that you told me are a no go because I
Yeah,
believe
yeah,
that
yeah,
one was an
correct,
ongoing
correct.
project and cannot disclose
So,
details.
let me see. Yeah, that one. Yeah, those three were more of a personal setting side of things.
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, that. Well, let's be honest. There are fun things that people share amongst each other that it's like, okay, this is between us. You share this out, we all get in trouble. It's like, yeah, yeah, no, no.
exactly. Let's see. We were talking
Now, needless to
about
say, nothing
acoustical. So,
about works in progress or anything like that. Like, just completed stuff that you're allowed to share.
hmm biggest thing, obviously, within respect to homeowners and stuff, is protecting their privacy. So
Yep.
obviously, nothing with identifying factors is going to be present.
Anybody listening, thank you for listening. Again, today we chatted about home theater systems of all kinds, whether exterior, interior, mobile, what kind of different, just everything. We went over everything. Okay, if you
All over the
confused
place.
about any of it, stick around. We might have some follow up stuff in the future. But it's been great, informative, educational, and if you guys need any kind of clarification on anything, you can drop a comment. You can join the Discord and ask a question there, and we will try and clarify things for you as best we can. Uh, thank you guys for listening. See you next time. Bye.
Peace.
Bye.